Michael Jackson gave her a ring, and she says they have crushes on each other. Brooke Shields talks about her feelings for Michael right after this. We'll be right back. Whenever my next guest appeared at Michael's side, she was the envy of all of his female fans, especially when rumors broke out that they were a really hot item. Brooke Shields joins us by the crackling fire via satellite. Great to talk to you, Brooke. How you doing?
Fine, thank you.
What makes Michael such a good friend, do you think?
Well, I think that his sensitivity, his honesty. I mean, as a friend, I've known him for so many years, and what I felt...
How many years? How
almost
long?
More importantly than anything. We were both about, I was 14, I think. Mm-hmm. And I think because we both grew up in the same business, and we had similar upbringings in the sense that we were, you know, we had to begin in this business at a very young age. We learned a sense of, we had defense mechanisms that we'd built up. And I think once we met each other, we realized that we didn't really have to be wary of one another. And that enabled us to build a friendship on a very different level.
Do the unfortunate, nasty comments and criticisms about him, do they upset you? Make you angry?
They upset me constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I'm constantly upset by what people say. I mean, first of all, granted, you take everything with a grain of salt, and there are many things said about me that are unkind that I don't find pleasurable. But so many people really don't know him, and they don't give him a chance, and they're so ready to criticize. And I think what happens is when you see genius, and when you see a talent that is just unstoppable and untouchable, the first reaction people have is to criticize it, mm-hmm. because it scares them, it threatens them, and it sort of, in order to augment their own self-worth, they feel that they have to belittle him. And, you know, he's a sensitive human being who, you know, all of the negativity really, it does affect him and it hurts him.
Mm-hmm. So I want to know what the real deal is, Brooke, between the two of you. Could you just tell, like, what were you, now, I'm not asking about now, but were you kind of like, let's see, what's the word? Was there romance going on? Were you all kind of romantically involved? Was there like ever an exchange of, you know, rings or anything, or?
Well, actually, I think right now, let me say that I believe that we're closer now than we ever were. I think we love each other more now than we even knew we did when we were younger.
Really?
We used to, well, because we had fun when we were younger. I mean, it was, okay, and we were sort of a source of relief.
This is a question. Did you have a crush on him, or did he have a crush on you?
I think we both had a crush, and still do have a crush on each other. I mean, I think part of having a crush on someone is admiring them. Mm-hmm. Almost, I mean, we have a lot of fun together, and I mean, it's almost unfortunate because we know each other so well. But, I mean, he amazes me every time I sit down and talk to him about something really important.
Does he feel more like a brother to you, though, than, say, a boyfriend, though?
It's hard to say. I mean, I find it's a love on a different level. I mean, I feel closer to him than some of the boyfriends that I've had. I mean, I feel more relaxed around him, mm-hmm. or more comfortable with him than I do. So it's sort of, and I mean, I've never really had a brother. There is part of that, but it's like a love on a very different level, and it's hard to really explain. And whenever I've tried to explain it to people, it's been misinterpreted. And it's a shame because it hurts him too when he feels that people misinterpret the way we feel about each other.
Okay.
And he gave me the most incredibly beautiful ring that you can ever imagine. And of course then people built that out of proportion, and they said we were engaged, and it wasn't about that. It was a friendship ring that when he gave it to me, it was the most adorable thing. We hadn't really ever exchanged gifts before. And
are you wearing it by now, Brooke? Are you?
No, I'm not. Because I'm working. I didn't wear. I know. I'm sorry. That'll be its own show, Oprah.
Well, as you know, he's doing his first interview tonight. What advice do you have for your close friend? And what do you think of him doing this interview? You think this is good?
I think it's good because I think people need to hear him speak, mm-hmm. and I think they will only be even more warmed by his presence. They'll be more pleasantly surprised. I think a lot of what happens is people don't understand him because they have no real concept of who he is. They see him professionally, and they have no idea what he is personally. Now, granted, that's his prerogative. I think it's fine when people don't want to speak out in public if they don't feel like it. But I think it can only help him, because the people that already love him will just love him more. Those who don't think they love him will just come away loving him. I mean, my advice to him, which I've even told him personally, is to just be himself, because that's what people are going to love.
I think you're right. Thank you, Brooke.
Do you go out? Do you date?
Yes.
Who do you date?
Well, right now it's Brooke Shields. Well, we try not to just be everywhere and go it's mostly at home. She'll come over, I'll go to her house, because I don't like going out in the public.
Have you ever been in love?
Yeah.
With Brooke Shields?
Yes, and another girl.
And another girl?
Michael was one of a kind. I thinking back to when we met and the many times that we spent together, and whenever we were out together and there would be a picture taken, there would be a caption of some kind, and the caption usually said something like an odd couple or an unlikely pair. But to us, it was the most natural and easiest of friendships. I was 13 when we met, and from that day on, our friendship grew. Michael always knew that he could count on me to support him or be his date, and that we would have fun no matter where we were. We had a bond. And maybe it was because we both understood what it was like to be in the spotlight from a very, very young age. I used to tease him and I'd say, you know, I started when I was 11 months old. You're a slacker. You were what, 5? Both of us needed to be adults very early. But when we were together, we were 2 little kids having fun. We never collaborated together. We never performed together or danced on the same stage, although he did try in vain one night to unsuccessfully teach me the moonwalk. And he just basically just shook his head and crossed his arms at my attempt. We never filmed a video or recorded a song, but what we did do was laugh. It was always a competition to see who could make the other one laugh more or be sillier. Michael loved to laugh. His heart would just burst out of him when he was laughing. He adored it when I did silly imitations or told him stories about my life. MJ's laugh was the sweetest and purest laugh of anyone's I had ever known. His sense of humor was delightful, and he was very mischievous. I remember it was the night before Elizabeth Taylor's wedding, and he had called me prior and asked if I would join him. He didn't want to be alone for all the festivities. And it was the night before the big day, and Michael and I tried to sneak in to get the first peek of the dress. And we were just giggling like crazy, and we almost passed out in hysterics when we realized that Elizabeth was actually asleep in the bed. We thought she was in an entirely different room. And we had to laugh and sneak out. Then at the point of the wedding, when there was the first dance, basically we had to joke that we were the mother and father of the bride. Yes, it may have seemed very odd to the outside, but we made it fun and we made it real. When he started wearing the glove, I was like, what's up with the glove? I was like, look, if you're gonna hold my hand, it better be the non-gloved one, because sequins really hurt me. He would dig in. He'd just shake his head and he would just smile. He loved to be teased. Seeing him smile made you feel like everything was going to be all right. To the outside world, Michael was a genius with unchallenged ability. To the people who were lucky enough to know him personally, he was caring and funny, honest, pure, non-jaded, and he was a lover of life. He cared so deeply for his family and his friends and his fans. He was often referred to as the king, but the Michael that I knew always reminded me more of the little prince. Thinking of him now, I'd like to share a passage from the book. What moves me so deeply about this sleeping prince is his loyalty to a flower. The image of a rose shining within him like the flame within a lamp, even when he's asleep. And I realized he was even more fragile than I had thought. Lamps must be protected. A gust of wind can blow them out. Michael's sensitivity was even more extraordinary than his talent, and his true truth resided in his heart. As the little prince also said, eyes are blind. You have to look with the heart. What's most important is invisible. Michael saw everything with his heart. To his family, his brothers and sisters, Catherine, Joe, and to his children, Prince, Paris, Blanket, my prayers are with you. Michael's favorite song was not one of the countless masterpieces that he gave us, but it was a song that Charlie Chaplin wrote for the movie Modern Times. It's called Smile. And there's a line in the song that says, smile though your heart is aching. Today, although our hearts are aching, we need to look up where he is undoubtedly perched in a crescent moon, and we need to smile.
That'll just bring you right back down to earth. Bubbles. Yeah.
You get bubbles to that, and it's all really normal.
Yeah.
Were you guys supposed to be dating? Is that what it was?
You know what? Listen, we knew each other. I met him when I was 13, and I was like the the person that he would call because these other famous people would sort of really like prey on him and want to be like, I'm going to sleep with him because that's going to be a thing. And we were kids together. I think that there was an arrested development to a certain extent with him in that way. But we acted like little kids together. And I don't think either one of us in our lives really had the environment to do that safely.
Did you remain friends throughout?
Throughout. He was the first person to call me when my dad got sick.
Wow.
He when I had postpartum, he sent me flowers and all of these things, even though we sort of hadn't had our regular dinners that we used to have on a more regular basis. But he was consistent to the end. And when it came time to his memorial, I had been really out of the public eye with him for a decade at least. And it was his mom who called me and said, I want you to speak.
That's amazing.
And it was because I really thought, this is going to be a cartoon. I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to be invited. I never liked the dad. The dad never liked me.
Why not?
I don't know. You'll never really hear me say anything bad about anybody except for that man.
Was he as brutal? Joe Jackson, was he? They said that he took a fork and he scraped it on Michael's face when he had acne. Was he really that bad?
He's not a human being. He's the devil.
Did you see him yelling and screaming?
I didn't, but I saw the after effect, and you just look in his eyes, and it's just listen. Maybe. You kind of look back and you think, regrets. I mean, his mom was so lovely and he loved her. And you don't know, maybe certain things, people in people's lives will make them who they are. I don't know. I mean, I don't like looking at regrets, but I do feel like it was unnecessary, unkind. He wasn't kind.
Did you speak to him at the funeral or no?
I did. I had a couple cocktails. And went to the part after where everybody met, and I'd already done my speech, so I wasn't nervous anymore. And I sort of downed some whiskey, and I went over to him. I don't know what possessed me. I went over to him and I said, "You know what? You never liked me. You never even pretended to like me. I never liked you. You always were mean." And I said, "You know what? You know what I'm going to tell you? I was going to tell you, thank you." And he was like, why are you like that, Brooke? What are you doing? And I said, no. I'm going to thank you for your son. I said, because your son changed the world and was my friend. So that's what I'm going to say to you. I'm going to say thank you. And he was just like, and he tried to, he was gross. He had these young women around him. And
I have to go. I'm Team Joe on that one.
Yeah. Well, I get it. But I don't know why. I was like, kind of cocky, and I had couple of belts in me, as my mom would say, and I didn't know what to say because I didn't want at Michael's memorial to be toxic.
And you didn't want to be fake though, and just go,
and I didn't
hello.
want to be fake. Like, I'm so sorry for your loss. Bullshit. I didn't feel that at all.
Did Michael hate him?
I don't think you can truly, deeply hate your parent because you get one of them. I think he was so hurt by him, and I think he was in absolute disbelief. Michael didn't have hate. I think he just couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe how mean it was to him.
Any posters in your bedroom as a kid, and of who?
Yeah. Brooke Shields. Everywhere. My sisters would get jealous and tear him off the wall.
Really? Brooke Shields? Okay.
This is exactly why we call Michael Jackson the king of pop. If it wasn't for Michael Jackson, I would never have ever performed. He's made such an impact on my life and every performer's life. Michael Jackson, I love you. We all love you. I want you to give it up for the king of pop, Michael Jackson. Congratulations. Diamond Award.
I love you. I love all the fans from the bottom of my heart.